back to Mushroom Adventures. In this episode, I'm going to talk all about how to care for your pressure cookers, how to do some minor repairs to them if you need be, and just some general maintenance for them. You can see here, I have a couple of my large ones. These are all American 941 models. Each one will hold 6 bags of grain, or 19 or 20 quart jars, depending on how good you are at placing them in there. And they're the only ones I use for bags now. The only time I ever use a small pressure cooker is just for sterilizing some liquid cultures or petri dishes or things of that like. Now, one of the common issues you'll come across with these all-American ones, although they are the best cookers you can buy, the issue comes with these weights, and when they rattle, they tend to bang up these valves up here. And this one's good, but you can see over here that I've put a binder clip with a quarter on each side of the clip with the arms of it kind of holding them there in place. And the reason being is that the valve stem on this cooker has just a very, very small kind of unevenness to it. Just where the weight on top has rattled and banged the aluminum, because these are made of aluminum as well, so they're a bit soft. And it's kind of deformed the very opening, which is kind of thin. And to me, this is kind of like a manufacturer's flaw, although I'm sure it's one of those things that All-American Canning Company makes some extra money selling $9 valves, because they know that's one thing that'll wear out on it. And I hope to maybe one day fashion just a steel replacement, or maybe bronze or something that wouldn't is a bit tougher than the aluminum. But I just have to see, or maybe just fashion out of aircraft aluminum. But I have to see about that. But anyhow, probably about, I would say maybe 50 hours of use, 40 hours of use, you'll end up with a banged up valve. So we're going to go ahead and replace this one. And to do so, I have a set of deep sockets, just a ratchet, and you can use either a 7/16 socket or an 11 millimeter. The 11 millimeters seem to be a little bit more snug around it. Now, what you don't want to do is use a pair of pliers to try to get this off, because pliers are steel, the valve's made of aluminum, and usually they're in there pretty good because the aluminum will oxidize and bind to itself pretty good. Especially in these ones that when you first buy them, they don't seem to put any kind of pipe dope or pipe tape around the valve stem, making it even a bit harder to get out. And I've always put them in with some pipe tape so they come out easier, and I never had a problem with pressure leaking out or anything like that. So we'll put it on there, make sure you got it all the way around it. I'm just gonna, might help to maybe actually lock it down a little bit so you're not turning the lid. Alright. And righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You'll notice it's really in there. So you have to put a good bit of force. Don't put so much force that you accidentally snap it one way, because once you snap it and leave it in there, you're probably screwed. There we are. Now, this is probably a valve that I've replaced before, no doubt, because I'm pretty sure I've replaced them all in my cookers 2 or 3 times by now. Get it out of there. Now you can see just how much corrosion is inside that from its age, and of course it's black all around it. A lot of that black comes from the foil breaking down and oxidizing on the material. So I don't know if you can see, but probably not. But the very tip of this valve is just slightly uneven. It may be just uneven. You might have actually a little tiny nick in it. But either way, once is that way. There's really nothing you can do. I have tried to sand the tip down to make it flat again, but then it seems to change the dimensions of the opening, and doesn't seem to work very well. But in the meantime, until you replace the valve, using a binder clip with 2 quarters on it, or even a 4 quarters on it, will add enough weight on top of the valve that'll raise another 1 or 2 psi. Now, if the pressure is maybe like 14 psi or so, I'm not worried about that. It still will do a sufficient enough job. Really, when the pressure drops below 14, around 13%, that's when I say it's about time to replace the valve. Now, also too, be aware that your gauges can go bad as well. You can see this one, for instance, doesn't actually zero at 0, although if I remember right, it does still come up to the proper pressure reading. But sometimes the gauges will go off eventually, and there's really no repairing those either. And you can buy replacements and unscrew them. The nice, probably cloth around it, and a pair of vice grips or channel locks, and carefully get off there. Make sure again not to put too much angle to it that you don't want to snap it. And go ahead and use pipe tape, or yeah, for waterline pipe tape on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get a new valve, tape it up, and we'll get it in there. This is one of the common pressure cookers you'll find in stores like Walmart or Kmart or Target or any of those places. This is actually a Miro brand, but pretty much any brand you buy is going to be good. They all have to conform to certain standards of safety nowadays, so you're never going to buy anything that's dangerous. They'll all have multiple safety features, just like those large All-Americans I have, because those All-Americans are nice because they have the safety feature of the valve, just like this, and they have the safety of the pressure release valve, just like this one too. Only on the All-Americans, it's actually a plug. And two on the All-Americans, just like this one, you'll see that this one, the lid has some ridges to catch in case the pressure does pop, the lid doesn't go flying off like a rocket. And the All-Americans obviously have little metal latches to go around to do the same thing. Now you'll see the inside of this one obviously has a little plate. It's all covered in lime just from tons of use, but that's no problem. Always make sure that you have a grate or a plate like that in the bottom of your cooker, even the big ones. Otherwise you'll end up burning your bags, melting the plastic, or possibly breaking jars from too much heat at the very bottom. Now, you can see the safety features of this one, the valve also too. On pretty much any pressure cooker you'll get, they'll also have like a little screen thing that goes underneath the valve. That prevents anything like a plastic bag or anything getting up in there and cutting off the escaping steam and causing problems. You see this thing has a rubber gasket. I've never replaced this gasket. I've had this pressure cooker for probably 7-8 years now. I've used it hundreds of times. And the secret to not having to replace your gasket is to always keep about a quart of water in your cooker wherever you're storing it. Of course, if you sterilize it and everything, you just leave the leftover water in there. Just make sure you change it out before you do a new batch. And then just close it up. That way the moisture inside will keep the rubber gasket from drying out, because that's really the problem. I had a smaller cooker just like this. It held, I think, maybe 4 pint jars, while this one will hold 4 quart jars. But I had left it sitting in the cupboard for so long, there's no water in it, that the gasket dried out a bit. And even though I kind of hydrated it with some hot water and everything, it wasn't enough. And when I tried it out and ran a load, they got up the pressure, and then I was in the kitchen and a loud pop and steam just goes everywhere and scared the crap out of me. But it was still safe though. All the safety features still held in place. The lid didn't go flying, but it did release all its steam at once. And so I decided I'm just going to get a better pressure cooker than that one for the cost of just replacing the gasket, because I'm sure the gaskets for these probably run like $10 or something crazy expensive, that you only paid, you know, $25, $30 for the cooker itself. You can see this one has a slightly different type of weight on it, where the steam kind of escapes out of these little porting holes. And I like this weight much better. I've never had to replace this valve. You can see the opening of it is much more blunt, no sharp edge to it. And there's no corners or anything on the inside of this, so it never wears out. So there's a message for all American company: make your valves better. But I've never had trouble with this cooker as long as I've kept the water in it. Of course, too, you want to clean the top of it and everything. I've never cleaned out the inside either, too. Never really needed it. You see this one here as well has a safety pin that when the pressure goes up, the pin will pop up. Now, sometimes I've noticed that you'll be here and you'll see steam escaping, and you'll wonder what's going on. You know, it's been sitting there for like 20 minutes, and like, oh, the pin's stuck. It's got lime or calcium jammed up in it. So if you just give it a few really light slaps around it, usually it will cause the pin to jump up there. You never really want to hook it with your finger or anything, because you're just risking hot steam getting blasted on your hands, and that's no fun. But this cooker served me well. It'll hold 4 quart jars. You can get them smaller, of course, than you're only doing pint jars. But if you have the money, I really recommend getting an all-American variety of even the small ones, because they will last forever. They're much more durable. And all-American, although I don't like their valves, they're still a great company.